Well, I'm not seeing questions in the chat right now, so Mark, I'm gonna give you the floor real quick for your thing if you wanted to talk about it.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I've been working on this thing that I call the GitHub AT-AT, which is um, a type of module, um, a type of module that automates the automation with Terraform. And so these modules that I've been developing automate everything from like the pipelining tools that help you manage environments day two and onward, using Terraform and using those pipelining tools like Azure DevOps, GitHub Actions, etc. And there's a lot of click ops involved in setting that stuff up. So I thought, man, like we have a GitHub provider that literally provisions stuff to GitHub. We have an Azure DevOps provider. Why don't we just like create a module that like just spits out like a fully working thing? So that's what these AT-ATs are doing. This is not a unique idea. Like other people are doing this. I met some people at some companies that do this at scale. So it's not like a unique thing, but like it's just something that I've been kind of interested in. So I was going to share my window here. Let's see if I can run it. There we go. So I have my module declared here. This is so I'm trying to add support for new scenarios right now. And so the first GitHub AT-AT just spit out a GitHub repository with GitHub actions that would run Terraform plan, apply, destroy core workflow, right? And it didn't implement Git flow. It didn't implement anything more sophisticated than just spitting out a resource group. So I wanted to leave that starter pack there, the starter app, but I wanted to make it so it's extensible so you could stitch together more sophisticated scenarios. And so that's kind of what I've been working on the side here. And so I've got the first scenario that I targeted was an Azure Functions environment where instead of just spitting out a resource group, we're going to go spit out an Azure Functions app service plan as our core shared infrastructure. And then we can pop out a whole bunch of function apps that sit on top of that shared infrastructure. So I've already got the Azure Functions stuff provisioned, the core, the app service plans and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go provision an entire new function app that's leveraging my existing shared infrastructure. It's going to set up a GitHub repo, GitHub actions. It's going to drop Terraform code. It's going to leverage a dual backend environment. And it's going to set up all the federated identity credentials with Entra ID so that I don't have to use secrets and stuff like that. So you can see here the code for my GitHub AT-AT. This is using the Azure Function app, and shorthand notation for function there. And basically, like I'm just providing it like what's the name of my application that's going to be hosted in this repo? What is the GitHub organization, the repository name, some attributes of the repo? Because this thing is going to live in an environment, in a function app, what are some of the things about that function app that I need to specify? Oh, by the way, I want to do a .NET function app. So generate me some .NET code that's going to be, sitting there that's going to be deployed to this function app automatically and stitched together with all the things, right? And then also set up my Git flow environment so that I have 3 environments, dev, test, prod, and they map to, your typical develop, release, and main branches. And I like specify different backends to store the Terraform state on so that I have like compartmentalization and stuff like that there. Now, all I need to do is pass in a different TFR file and get this thing running. So I'm running locally. I'm going to do Terraform workspace list just to make sure I'm in the right spot. And I created a new workspace locally just so I could spit out a new application. It's just going to be like a microservice for like managing user profiles and stuff like that, just as an example. And so now I'm in the right workspace. I run Terraform init, of course, just like usual. And we can see I'm loading, some of my favorite, utility providers, random, null. I'm using the Azure AD, which automates Entra. I'm using the GitHub provider, and of course, my beloved Azure RM provider. And so now I've initialized my workspace. I'm just going to run Terraform apply, but I'm going to pass in this TFR file here. Okay. And this TFR file, while it's doing that, I'll go show you what's in this TFR file. These are all the values that are going to specify where my Terraform state is going to be for each environment. I've got non-prod and prod. I've got the different subscriptions that I'm targeting, okay? Because when I run my dev and test environments, like I want those to go to one subscription, I want prod to go to a different subscription. So I got security separation and all that stuff. This is going to be the root namespace for my .NET projects. This is going to be the repository name. Don't email me. This is my GitHub, organization that I set up just to test this out. And I got 99 things that I'm going to deploy. Now this has got a pretty big blast radius. Okay, so the GitHub AT-AT isn't really about what my usual mantra is, which is managing it like long term using, for and focusing on day two ops. Because the point of GitHub AT-AT is to get you out there and running. Oh, 10 minutes left. Sorry, I'm going to run this and we'll get it going. So while this is applying, I will flip over to a browser and just show you what this thing deploys. But the GitHub, like I was mentioning, the GitHub AT-AT is kind of about setting up the automation and then no strings attached. Like you don't ever have to use the GitHub AT-AT ever again, right? It's going to give you everything that you need to manage this environment long term. So now that that's running, we're deploying everything to GitHub. I'm going to switch over to a web browser and I'm going to show you what it produces out in the web browser, if I can find the right browser. I think this is it. Yeah. Okay, so let me go to my organization. I'm going to go look at my repos, and I'm going to go see that I have a new repo here called service user. So I'm just going to go in that. I'm going to see this thing get deployed. Now, in the background, you saw my Terraform apply running. It's going ahead and setting up all the stuff out here. So if I go look at it hasn't gotten to that yet, I guess, but it's going to be setting up environments and setting up variables and all that stuff to connect things. It might be doing, it looks like it's doing stuff in Entra ID right now. I can go pop over into Entra and watch what it's doing over there. So if I go to my app registrations, and if anybody has any questions, let me know. So here's my new applications in Entra, and you can see there's an individual identity set up for each environment that I'm deploying to, and you need a federated credential in order to let GitHub basically talk to Azure using this identity, right? And so this identity only has permission to do deployments to this environment within GitHub, within the GitHub environments, on this repository in this organization. So it's got a pretty good security boundary. And then if I go back to where are we at here? Let's see if this stuff is there yet. We're not doing environments yet. What are we doing? We're still doing role assignments. I have, so Aiden, I have a DevOps AT-AT that I call it, which does the same thing on DevOps. It's not as sophisticated as the GitHub version. But I met up with some people at HashiConf that said that they were using it and they liked it. So I would encourage you to check that out. One of these days, I'll get around to probably making similar updates to the Azure DevOps version. Um, but yeah, I've been kind of working on the GitHub version of this recently. Um, any other questions while we wait for the apply to finish?
Nothing quite like the silence of an apply.
No kidding, right? Like go get some tea and coffee or something. Looks like we hit the code bases. So we're dropping code out here into this repo. We we have infrastructure as code, um, i.e. the Terraform stuff, which is going to let us do ILM or infrastructure lifecycle management. Um, and this is going to help me manage my function apps hosting environment. And then I also have my .NET code, which I use just a kind of naming convention standards in .NET to set this up. All the files aren't there yet, like they're still coming because the Terraform apply is still running. I'm also dropping GitHub Actions YAML files, which I've only got one out there yet. Um, but we're going to see GitHub Actions dropped that allow me to perform basic Git flow operations. So plan on PR. So when somebody submits a pull request, I'm going to run Terraform plan. When somebody pushes onto a particular branch, we're going to run a Terraform apply process. All of that stuff gets set up with standard templates that that the GitHub AT-AT, and you see they're kind of popping in there right now. These are the manual deployment ones for the .NET. So again, this is a more opinionated version. The .NET code actually has a CI/CD pipeline that gets deployed in addition on top of the Terraform infrastructure lifecycle management stuff. So these are more like application lifecycle workflows that are going to let me run a continuous integration process for my .NET and then a continuous deploy process, which I haven't worked out the bugs yet, but will very soon, very shortly. Yeah. And basically, once this is done, we will be able to we'll be able to go over to here and I'll be able to, I mean, the Git flow stuff is all set up. So I could go through the process of submitting a PR, but I also have some of these manual Terraform core workflow operations. So I can just go trigger, a Terraform apply on a specific environment and just make it so, which is probably what I'll do once this thing's fully done. But let me go check out the environments, show you that. And you can see I got 3 environments here and they're configured. All the environment variables haven't showed up yet. I've got configuration for backend context so that, the environment knows where it's storing its Terraform state and where it's storing its compiled plans. So the Terraform core workflow process will actually save a Terraform compiled plan to, and I think we're ready to go, folks. So let the demo gods smile down upon me. Let me just try a Terraform plan. I'm not feeling so confident. Well, let's see if this plan goes well, and then I'll decide if I'm going to try the apply, or worse, the deploy. The deploy is really, really fun because you can see it's kind of a multi-stage process where you can see the .NET code build. When we wait on the .NET code to build, we wait on the plan to finish, and then we run apply, and then we wait on the apply, and then once the apply is done, we run the deployment of the .NET code to the function. But running a plan basically shows that everything showed up. Like none of this would come back if our Entra ID identity wasn't configured and didn't have proper federated credential access to GitHub and to Azure. So, and we couldn't talk to Terraform state, like we're initializing state and all that stuff. So this is looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this. I'm going to go run Terraform apply on prod, and then we'll go see what this thing spits out into the portal. and you guys can see the apply pipeline. Now, the manual apply is an auto approve. Okay, don't hate on me. This is a break glass kind of apply. The Git flow process, these release pipelines actually run. I can show you what these look like by looking at the code. The release pipelines will actually run a Terraform validate, then a Terraform plan, and then we output a compiled plan. We upload it to blob storage. We wait for like authorization or approval from some human that goes and looks at the plan, decides if it's good. Then we go download the plan from blob storage and we run Terraform apply with that plan. So again, we're using we're using Azure Storage as kind of an ephemeral storage for our compiled plans, so that they're not, because they do contain secrets and they can be decompiled. Yeah, go ahead.
Is there a reason why you're using Azure Blob Storage for the plan versus a GitHub artifact within the workflow?
That's a good question. I am a little bit worried that the GitHub artifacts are accessible to a broader audience. The only people that have access to the storage account that can actually go pull that plan are people that, have been granted a role assignment that lets them go and look at the contents of the blob storage. An artifact, anybody that has access to this repo can go access that artifact.
Right, because anyone that can see the workflow can then see the artifact. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And those plans technically can contain secrets, right? If you happen to do that, which you very likely will. It's important to have a security mindset about your stuff. So anyways, you can see this is working here. Let me just show you the code while this apply. See, I did two applies on this demo. one to spit out this, GitHub repo, and then one to actually provision the environment. Now, of course, after this GitHub repo is provisioned, we don't need the GitHub AT-AT anymore. No strings attached. You can go on with life and never think about the GitHub AT-AT ever again. You've got this code, which you can decide how you want to maintain it. You can change it all around. The starter app starts with just a resource group, but you can see here I'm stubbing out kind of a multi-region function app where I've got a primary region only right now, and I'm giving it the app service plan that I want the function app to deploy to. And if I go look at the regional stamp, I got my function app and I'm configuring it for .NET and I'm doing all the things. And I set up a key vault, I set up a managed identity and all that stuff. So it's not the most sophisticated environment, but it's got the plumbing in place for somebody to go nuts with this thing, right? That's kind of the idea. It's more like an accelerator to help people not just shotgun stuff into the cloud, right? Like, hey, here's a module that'll provision an Azure function. This is a cloud shotgun that'll help you shotgun the automation to help you, from day one to day two and ad infinitum. That's the idea behind it. So let's go look at the apply. Should be done about now. That's the plan. Yeah, so the apply is finished. Let me go run the deploy just for giggles, because do I not have the .NET deploy? I'm not seeing. Oh, I'm in the wrong one. My bad. I got a little excited there. Yeah, I was like, where's the .NET deploy? So yeah, my apply finished. Let's go run the .NET deploy, because this is where it gets really exciting, folks, because the .NET deploy is where the more sophisticated scenario. I actually have a very opinionated implementation for Azure functions. And so when we run this thing, we get to see GitHub Actions oh, look at that. You love the squiggly lines, right? Like, this is really fun, right? So we're running in parallel the .NET build and the Terraform plan. This is going to produce the artifacts from an ILM standpoint and an ALM standpoint. The Terraform apply is going to run our ILM phase, which is going to produce our environment, and then the deploy, which doesn't work, okay? is going to drop the code and release the new version of the bits of our application, or in this case, our little microservice, out to that function app that's running in the cloud. So I hope that the GitHub AT-AT can help facilitate, very robust scenarios, of a wide variety of Azure workloads such as this, and help people not get bogged down by the toil of trying to set up all the infrastructure as code, ILM and ALM stuff by hand, by using ClickOps or coding it yourself, right? And not be prone to some framework that is going to be like a nanny and require you to do things my way, for example. The GitHub AT-AT is giving you kind of a push, and you can go ride into the sunset yourself, and change things however you want to change it. That's it, guys. The deploy is going to fail, but this is the GitHub AT-AT. I hope you check it out. Azure Functions is the first one. I plan on doing a Kubernetes one, and you're going to see a Kubernetes deployment very similar to this, using different shared infrastructure, but same concept, like Kubernetes cluster. Instead of doing a function deployment, we're going to do, a kubectl, and we're going to drop some pods and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's it. Sorry, I took a really long time. And the deploy failed. That doesn't work. So
that's how it always goes with live demos, Mark. No worries.
I knew it was. I'm working on it right now, so I knew
that's pretty slick though, dude. Even though the deploy failed, that's pretty slick. I'm already messaging my team about some of this stuff. I found your GitHub repo and I've been tearing through it. So
yeah, totally free, open source. I there's no way for me to monetize this. I'm trying to give it away just to help people, because I definitely feel like there's an inertia of not focusing on day two, right? Your day two should be running these, doing a pull request, doing a code review, interrogating a plan, verifying the plan meets your intent of what you want to do to that environment. Once you approve that, plan, you merge it in, and then the deployment gods take it from there. I think all too often, especially in the Azure space, we are all about how do we just get the environment out there and we ClickOps manage it long term. So that's what I'm trying to help people accelerate. So,
and it's daunting.
Well, and that's literally what we're trying to do in our org. We're trying to get them to do, everything as code, and then have pipelines for your operations tasks, right? And we need teams to understand that they don't do operations in their Terraform IAC necessarily. That's gotten some of them hung up. So great stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. CICD is a scary thing for a lot of people, especially because there's just so many little hooks and needles to watch out for. So this is really cool.
Yeah. Well, thanks for letting me, Sean. And hope you guys have a good holiday.
Yep. All right. We're 10 minutes over. Thank you for everyone who stayed over. Appreciate all of you. Have a great holiday season. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Hope you get what you want for Christmas. And I will see all of you in the new year. So take care, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
See you, everybody.